how it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so I think it's setting it up now.
All right.
Yeah, this is dope. All right, hold on.
Oh, so it's giving you just a step-by-step guide on how to do it.
Yeah, bro, that is
Yeah,
fire, bro.
that's
Can you
awesome.
still hear me?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, bet. And there's no feedback or anything like that?
No, it's straightforward.
All right, cool. That's good. Well, shoot, we're streaming live to YouTube, my brother, which
All
is
right.
dope.
Yeah.
And then let me pull up these questions real quick and I'll get this thing started, man. And like I said on the back end, man, I'll probably chop it up, send
Okay.
you some snippets if it makes sense. But
Yeah.
okay, cool. You good to go, King?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's do
All
it.
right, man, let's get it then, bro. Let's get it.
Yeah.
So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Murdoch II. I'm the founder of the Side Hustle Economy. The Side Hustle Economy Company is a nonprofit organization that's empowering Black entrepreneurs to achieve their entrepreneurial dreams through the three E's: exposure, education, and equipment. I'll talk a little bit about what those things mean later. But you didn't come here to learn about us. You came here to learn about an incredible brother, one of my friends, a colleague, and my accountant. You know, a brother who has an incredible story and is able to make great impact. And I'm sure after today's conversation, there's going to be a lot more people that want to work with him and learn more about his story and benefit from his services. So without further ado, I want to introduce my good friend, Jason Green. Thank you so much, bro, for jumping on here, taking some time of your Monday evening for our first ever Make It Make Sense Monday. I figured it'd be a great way to kick it off with talking to you.
Yeah.
And we're going to jump, you know what I'm saying, like right into the first question, because I think the
Yeah.
first question gives you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Let's do it.
But the first question, man, is can you tell us the story of how, why, and when you started your business, bro?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, man, how, why, and when? I'd say I'll start first with the why. So I always wanted to know more about the business world, learn about the economy, how the world works, and as I got older, I realized that the key to unlocking businesses to go to school and to learn more and go into accounting school specifically. I thought that learning about accounting would open up the door to just being able to read all these financial statements that companies put out and how the stock market works. I went and started. I went and got my finance degree, accounting master's, and I got a supply chain certification. And my overall goal was to start a consulting company that would my primary goal was to help my community, not just learn this information for myself, but share this information with people like myself who didn't have access necessarily to it when we were younger. I give you an example. We talk about balancing our finances, balancing our checkbooks, and our knowing the ins and outs, opening up bank accounts. The unfortunate reality is it's hard to do all that when you don't have resources in place already. When your family perhaps might not have the wherewithal to teach you about how to open up bank accounts or why we open up bank accounts, right? So, I saw that accounting was a way, or just learning about business was a way to make a difference, make a change specifically for my community, and just kind of do something about some of the problems that are exist in our society, and do that with a positive impact, right? So that why continued on to me eventually, joining accounting firms, large accounting firms, and just learning about the side of business that we don't necessarily learn in school, and that's the side where you are facing ethical dilemmas and your integrity is being challenged, and you're asked to go left or right, and if you don't go the right direction, you got to go, right? So I was coming into my faith at the time when I was at a really big company, And I was just being asked to do things I wasn't comfortable with on an ethical level. And you're looking at someone who cared so much about being able to do good in the world, and now I'm being faced with the reality that maybe I have to do bad to get to the good. So I decided to not do it, and that kind of led me off the top, led me away from the top of the accounting and finance world. And it just kind of led me on a journey where, I had a lot of experience, but I wasn't necessarily the fit in companies that, I was oftentimes more qualified than the people who I was reporting to. So, one thing led to another, and I ended up realizing that I would be very good, my consulting journey and my accounting firm journey that I always wanted to complete would be expedited, and that I could start doing that sooner than later, partly because I had individuals who were approaching me, asking me to help them with their accounting and finance. So I had that in the back of my mind, and so that leads us from the why into the how. When I first started my business, I had a backlog of clients who were asking for help already. I knew exactly what I needed to do to validate them purchasing my services. That included getting a website, getting a blog, posting my credentials. So I went ahead and did that. I went ahead and did all of that, and was able to start, hit the ground running with a decent cash flow. It's also might ask some other few, this might also answer some other questions as well about, how do you start a side hustle, main hustle? I started with those initial clients, and I had, teaching gigs. I did a lot of teaching on the side, just as a way to supplement cash flow between invoices. And one thing led to another, where I was suddenly getting more accounting teaching gigs than more accounting projects than I was teaching. So the how was just me taking $100 initially and relying on my education and using that to buy on a business license, etc. Put money in my bank account. And so the when did I start my business? That led to that actually began in November of 2018. Started my business with a small investment and a lot of education, if you will. And that was education was my primary investment. And it's been, it's been running ever since then, where the business is becoming more and more optimized for accounting services. So that pretty much is why, how, and when for you.
Oh, that's dope, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so much information that was packed in there, Doc, and I'm not gonna take too long to kind of talk about each one of those pieces, because I could spend enough time on each one. But I think one thing that was powerful that you had said was one, like that investment that it took, right? It something I say a lot is that it takes money to make money.
Yeah.
And so often people don't realize how important it is for them to invest in themselves. They want other people to invest in them.
Yeah.
And to say that you took something like, and your journey too, right? So you didn't just jump into entrepreneurship to start. You were in the corporate space, and you weren't just in the corporate space. I saw in your bio, you're an award-winning practitioner in this space, right? So you had a lot of success in the space, but you had to make a decision for yourself, right? And say, do I want to continue to put money over morals, or do I want to work towards what started me here? And it was to come alongside my community. Right. And, you took your seed investment, you took your education, but you also took your vision. And you've made it make sense since November of 2018. So really, man, appreciate you sharing your story on here, brother. I definitely appreciate it, man.
Yeah, for sure. My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah.
So let's transition, Doc, to this next series of questions. One, so you already spoke about this briefly, right? This is your main hustle. You had talked about that. You definitely do have some teaching experience as well.
Yeah.
But what you're doing with Ledger Crush is definitely what you're doing full time. And since it is a main, and you already kind of talked about also at one point, it was kind of like a side hustle because you were doing the teaching piece in addition to this other piece.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about when you started your company? How did you already have a backlog of customers? Where these were people that you were just having conversations with when you were working for different companies, or like how did that work, bro?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually, it's funny you answer this. You asked this. I had a lot of clients. I had clients that I had met from church.
Mm,
So, and I, it's funny. I recall back in my past when I first started my accounting career, the CPA I was working for, he built a massive company just from church clients as well. So yeah, I wasn't out networking my services. It was just natural relationships, right? I had, there were people at my church who I just had relationships with. I was around all the time, and we just kind of started talking about, where I went to school, what I studied, and they're like, "Oh, interesting. That I definitely need some help, et cetera, et cetera." So they were, they knew what I offered, and they were trying to get it. So I realized that'll be a great starting point. But yeah, I think if anything, if the value that comes from that answer is, if I can offer any value, it's definitely don't take for granted the organic environments, the organic social environments you're in. And it's not just being in them, but it's also, again, like Murdoch said, investing in yourself so that things will, the word will get out on what kind of expertise you have. And I think it's almost it's pretty high. It's very likely that you'll be able to start your process of growing a company from the people that are immediately around you.
that's good. And I think that's a great transition to my next question, right? So
Yeah.
first takeaway I hear, first tip, first thing that you'd say to kind of transition from that side hustle to that full-time entrepreneurship is don't take relationship building opportunities for granted, right?
Yeah.
That's what I hear you saying. Do not
Yeah.
take relationship building opportunities for granted. And honestly, that's something that's not just important for entrepreneurship, but that just sounds like it's important for life in general. Would
Yeah.
would you have any other tips, right, specifically for folks who are looking to go from that side hustle to that full-time entrepreneurship? Maybe one or two other tips that people can take into consideration.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the natural process for people is to have a day job, and then come home at night, work additional 4 or 5 hours with their side hustle on the weekends. I think I think the key when it comes to knowing when to transition would be, if you can't afford something 3 times over, you can't afford it, right? So if you see that you've got an expense like mortgage that you need to pay, or rent, and you're trying to decide when to leave that day job and go into your side hustle full time, I'd say don't do that until you can buy 3 rents, right? And what that does is it gives you a 3 month, launch pad to run with. If you see, the first month and a half, nothing's happening, then you could probably start the process of hedging your day job back into the process, start interviewing again. And if that 3rd month is still nothing's going on, focus entirely on getting another, day job to hold you over at the very least, right? So yeah, I think multiples. If you can't afford multiple things of whatever it is your costs are associated with you starting a side hustle, uh, don't make that jump yet. Uh, yeah, I think that's key. That's a very important part. And yeah, relationships is key as well. I think you hit it on the head. If you see yourself being isolated to the point where you can't, you're not getting organic connections, maybe that side hustle is taking too much time. Maybe you're not managing it effectively or delegating effectively. Maybe you want to reconsider that transition timeline and join a networking group instead during that timeline. So relationships are key, and having a financial runway is key.
A financial runway. So
Yeah.
I've definitely, the idea of think multiples, like you said, definitely something I'm familiar with. And
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of people mention a couple of things. One, if you can't buy it twice, don't buy it at all. My
Yeah.
guy Jason saying if you can't buy it 3 times, you can't afford it. So definitely keep that in mind. And again, I think the logic behind that is definitely rational. This idea of when you start, and that speaks to my personal experience. You know, when I made the decision to turn my side hustle into a full-time hustle, man, there were a lot of things, you know, there's a few lessons I learned a little bit too late. And that was definitely one of them, right? I didn't have a seed investment. I definitely didn't have money stashed away, but I did think I had enough business coming in once I transitioned that I'd be able to make that make sense. And you know what I mean? You saw me throughout that whole process.
Yeah.
So the point is, man, I definitely can relate to that. And I think that's incredible. In addition to that second piece you had mentioned about developing those relationships.
Yeah.
To transition to this next question, right? So in keeping with these threes, so there are a number of bookkeepers, accountants, financial practitioners, wealth managers that people can work with in your space.
Yeah.
To side hustlers that are watching this, that are thinking about bringing an accountant into their team, that are thinking about potentially hiring or contracting a bookkeeper who may be in a corporate space and developing some kind of a side hustle and saying, I've got lots of money coming in. I want to make sure I'm a good steward over these resources. What are three things that you tell folks that they should keep in mind when working with someone in your industry?
Yeah. Make sure there's some social capital, some social accountability. And I'll get into that later, but yeah, I think a key thing when seeking out someone who's going to manage your finances is try to tap your own network that's already in place. There's likely going to be someone who has already worked with an accounting or accountant, or who's currently working with an accountant. So the reason why you want to make sure there's some level of accountability for that accountant as well is that there are a lot of accountants who will take shortcuts, and so there's an integrity issue, and accountants will do this in the name of either efficiency or incompetence. So you want to minimize the risk for that as much as possible, especially if you're someone who yourself does not have an accounting finance background. So, you know, I think the key is to, you know, if you will, figure out how to test this person for integrity. You asked me, Murdoch, what's the why behind everything, right? You want to identify someone who has a purpose for their life, a vision, ideally a goal outside of themselves, right? I say that because that's a way to test for integrity. That matters. And it's really easy for someone who is in control of your finances to be so focused on themselves that when they are faced with that ethical dilemma that we will, as business leaders, always face to some extent, sometimes very frequently, you have an accountant who might make a decision that's not in your best interest. Instead of them agreeing to bow out, they will instead take a shortcut in the name of maintaining this mission that does not include anyone else but themselves. So that's key. Also, you want to know where the accountant is going. A common thing that happens with accountants is that they start off small, they're really accessible, they are, you know, on top of things with the deadlines, and that goes downhill as time progresses because the clients are adding up. So I would say talk to the accountant about their growth plan. How are they planning to bring on employees eventually, if anything? Are they working with contractors themselves, subcontracting work? How are they going to maintain quality when they do that? I will get a lot of clients who will come to me because their accountant was suddenly not responding to emails, not responding to text messages, phone calls. Sometimes will take months to respond. So part of that is a, a, a result of lack of organization as well. But a lot of it is a lack of, a plan for why, a lack of why. Instead, they're just working, and sometimes working just for themselves. And, if things go wrong, it's not their concern. They're not concerned with taking losses in order to fix things. Instead, they're more focused on getting more income in the door, and that translates to you taking losses instead of them. So yeah, maybe a window into how to manage that would be using me as an example and saying, if someone were to ask me, what's your plan for growth? I've actually hired an employee already, and I've had to let them go for quality issues. But I've restructured my expenses. I've actually ended my lease at my office, and I'm back working from home, and I'm replanning my system with the plan to go back and start another lease in a few months. With a better idea of who to hire. I know that my hiring will be built so that my staff will be dedicated to the particular entrepreneur that they are working with, so that entrepreneur can call them at all hours or text them or email them. So talk about that, and accountability, talk about that, what's their social network, what platforms are they on, what reviews are they getting? Those are things that have to naturally come if an accountant has been in business for more than a year. Ask them where that is. If you can't find one reference from some client they've had or some one positive comment, then something's terribly wrong. So yeah, definitely seek that out if you're looking for a bookkeeper / accountants to manage your business, to help you manage your business.
No, this is good stuff. And again, I don't find it to be a coincidence that the insight you gave and the two I really took down was accountability for accountants. You have to have accountability for your accountant.
Yeah.
If you're trying to bring somebody to see something that is very personal to your finances, you got to make sure that there's some integrity, right? Yeah. Test for integrity and understand that they have a purpose. One, they know their purpose, and two, that their purpose is bigger than them. And then on the backside, where's your account going, right? What are the goals for your account? Because in large part, your accountant, your bookkeeper, your wealth manager is going to help you achieve your goals. So do they have any, right? And if they do, what are they, right? And to what extent do you see yourself playing a part in that or not? And I think that, again, we're talking about finance practitioners, but bro, like these are just good questions for any relationship.
Yeah.
You want to be in relationship with people who don't think they're the most important thing ever. You want to be able to see yourself as a part of their life, as a part of their path. And then lastly, you want to be in rooms, you want to be in proximity to people who know that there's something greater for them and for the people that they serve. And so, I appreciate you for kind of having those kinds of tips and tricks for things to consider when working with somebody in your industry. Because again, these are life lessons. And you know what, y'all, for those that are listening, this is one of the things that I think makes the Side Hustle Economy Company different, right? When you have a company that in large part revolves around Black stories generally, and we leverage Black stories, which we believe are the assets that break generational curses and build generational wealth. And you centralize programming, you centralize education, you centralize exposure, like Make It Make Sense Mondays, and centralize equipping with the funds and the resources that we're able to give out to Black entrepreneurs. When you center it with stories, all of our work becomes personal, right? And it's no longer something that helps you grow your business, helps you improve your life. And I think that the knowledge, the gems that Jason is dropping is very much so emblematic of that. And you know what, man? I want to kind of transition to the next question because I think it's a great one. But bro, like, word of encouragement, piece of advice, lesson you learned a little bit too late. You know what I mean? Regarding entrepreneurship, because the people need that, bro. We're navigating multiple pandemics at one time. There's a lot of people who have lost their jobs. There's a lot of people who, like myself, who went full time out of need, not out of want. And it can be difficult to simply stay encouraged. So are you able to give the folks, a word of encouragement, advice, and a lesson you learned a little bit too late?
No, absolutely. Man, there's this management lesson I learned from this individual named Peter Drucker, and learned this in business school. Some of you who've been to business school may know this as well. It's just his main mantra was always focus on getting good at something that has nothing to do with what you make money for, right? It's kind of like a side, if you will, a hobby. Just focus on a goal that will bring you fulfillment outside of building a company, earning money. For me, for example, it's I try to shoot basketball shots every day, right? I have my quota I try to meet, and I think what it does is it grounds you. It manages the stress. It keeps you focused on what's important, and it's not just your business, it's life. It's being a good person, being your best version of yourself. So yeah, if you can do multiple things, that's great, man. I just was talking to a professor at IU, successful professor, like homes in California and Indiana. And so she actually took courses at Ivy Tech. She was learning additional languages. She was trying to learn Japanese and French as a way to just get good at something, right? So that's huge. Because at the end of the day, I think, I've done this for a few years now. You will accomplish things and it'll be anticlimactic when you accomplish things related to your business. It'll be a lot less rewarding than what you thought it was before you got there. And in order to manage that, in order to manage those peaks and valleys, you need to have multiple things that you can accomplish, I think. And then also, learn how to celebrate, right? Learn that being able to lead a company and be successful at it and have happy clients, building a revenue stream, hiring employees is an opportunity. It's a blessing. It's a gift. Most people can't do this if they tried, or they can't do it well enough to continue it. And most people fail. You might fail. So what you need to do is get good at celebrating what you have while you have it before it's gone. And just trust that, whatever else happens, as you are celebrating this is the way it's supposed to work, right? If you weren't meant to be successful at this, at least you celebrated that one win, and you can go on to the next part of your life and enjoy that as well. And then if you want to go into more business specific stuff, definitely, focus on income, right? Focus on the money. Murdoch, you've got this Make It Make Sense series. If you're not focusing on your income with your time, the time you've put away for your business, you're not going to be, I'd say the odds are slim that you're going to be successful. You need to figure out, I think a lot of us are coming, especially people coming from communities like mine, you start seeing, speaking opportunities to teach, to volunteer, to support, to serve as role models in your community. Yeah, that's good, but you need to step aside and sometimes go against your nature of trying to help others and become a capitalist. That's our job too. Or figure out how to balance that so that you are thinking how things will make you money and make your business money. So sometimes what I see is that business owners will be focusing on the legalities, the processes, the licenses, all this that needs to get done on the front end, instead of focusing on which clients you have laid out before you start working on anything else, right? You need to make sure you have a portfolio of 5 to 10 clients. That's priority. You're not focusing on getting followers on your social media. You're not focusing mind you, now you want these things, but priorities are priorities. Income comes first. Revenue comes first. After you know what your revenue stream is going to be, then you can start focusing on tax planning, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you do start focusing on those things, hire someone, right? Don't try to watch a YouTube video and do it on yourself. do it all your own, if you don't have training in certain situations when it comes to, like, for example, HR issues, accounting issues, legal issues, if you're not figuring out a tool that you can delegate these processes to, you are going to be wasting your time, and wasting your creativity, wasting that area of your brain that you can be filling up with innovation ideas or seeking out new business opportunities. Instead, you're filling that up with learning processes that learning processes that aren't going to hit your bottom line and make you more money. So if anything, focus on your hobbies, focus on celebrating, and focus on making money, right? Figure out that equation, but make sure that equation includes all three of those.
You're dropping gems, bro. You're dropping gems, bro. And I look forward to being able to come back and chop this thing up and share it with the people, bro, because you're dropping gems.
Yeah.
And y'all, just so that you know, Jason is not an outspoken person. Jason is one of the most, seriously, like, bro does not be out here talking to people. And this is the second time that he and I have been able to have a conversation like this. He and I had a conversation like this during the summit, the Side Hustle Economy Summit that helped open up my center. And he was gracious enough to offer his time for that kind of a conversation. And that was fantastic. And then the kickoff Make It Make Sense Mondays, he's the first guest. And I just want to say, man, I appreciate you for stepping outside of your comfort zone and continuing to provide this knowledge and not just the knowledge, but you're also extremely intentional after answering a question to break it down. You know what I mean? So you can talk for 5 minutes, but then it's like, 3 takeaways. Get good at something that brings you fulfillment outside of cash flow. That's the first thing I heard, right? That was beautiful. Yeah. And then 2, learn how to celebrate, because you don't know how long this victory is going to last. Right. That was huge, bro. Like, no moment is promised. And sometimes the celebration is because it's got to get you through a season. Maybe your side hustle is only for a season, but that's still a life lesson that you can learn from. And if you didn't celebrate in that season, you may have just wasted an experience. And since no day is promised, we don't have opportunities to waste. And then lastly, you made sense, Doc, right? Focus on income, right? Where's the revenue? This is a business after all, and you got to focus on that. I think all that is great. And in many part, it leads to this next question. What sets your company apart? You've been dropping gems for the last 30 minutes, and shout out to everybody watching on YouTube and on Zoom.
Yeah.
But, what sets your business apart, bro?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So with me, I focus on quality, integrity, and efficiency, right? So it's an interesting mix. Sometimes someone might say, how does that even work? My goal is to get good at things before I even engage the work, right? So that, that way I don't have to compromise my integrity in order to get things done. However, if I'm creative, if I'm faced with a new problem, I focus on making sure that problem is solved the right way the first time. I don't turn in work that I don't think is 100% what the client needs, 100% correct, 100% accurate. I focus on that, even if it takes longer than what it should. Clients who work with me know that they're getting what needs to get done on the front end instead of having to worry about it later on down the road. And then also, I'm someone who is, I pride myself in relationships, so, like Murdoch said, I'm not the person who's going to be out partying with all my clients. Maybe not yet, maybe I'm multifaceted, but for now, I like one-on-one relationships. I like being able to jump on a Zoom call and talk to people one-on-one and ask them how their life is going, not only ask them how the life is going, but ask them how the business is going, and ask them, what's on the pipeline. And here's what I found out when it comes to new rules pushing through Indy. Oh, you're trying to get a new office space. This particular area on 16th Street is getting a lot of attention from the city. They're trying to build it up. Maybe you want to consider getting in there while it's cheap. You know what I'm saying? So I actually schedule monthly meetings with my clients to, just figure out where they're at. And how I can help them and add value. So that's something I try to pride myself on as well. But the main features you get from me is quality, integrity, and efficiency.
I love that. And I can definitely attest to those things. And I mean, I appreciate our monthly meetings and those conversations that we have. And you're right, you do ask about the personal, but you also do ask about the business too. I think, I think I know just from my experiences, it's a lot of people who look to separate themselves in their company by not just talking about business, but talking about personal. But then there comes a moment when we haven't talked anything about business and we spent an hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes talking about something that the person simply wasn't hired for.
Yeah.
And to what extent do you balance? And I think you do that, like you said, through quality, integrity, and through efficiency of
Yeah.
balancing. I personally appreciate you, but at a business perspective, I understand the assignment, and I
Right.
want to make sure that I know the assignment and complete that assignment accordingly. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Again, shout out to everybody tuning in. We're on our last couple of questions. We got about 25 minutes left. Last couple of questions, bro.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this during the introduction, and I'll repeat it now for those who may not have heard it before. But the Side Hustle Economy Company is a nonprofit organization that empowers Black side hustlers to achieve their entrepreneurial dreams through the three E's, right? And those three E's are expose, educate, and equip. And Jason and I were kind of talking before we jumped on here about, what are the three E's and what do they mean? And if you want to know more about these, you can definitely go to our website, but I'll give you a brief description here. I'm going to ask Jason a question about the three E's within his mindset and his own journey. But the first one is exposed, right? So you don't know what you're not exposed to. And so here at the Side Hustle Economy Company, we're extremely intentional by having conversations just like this, where we're going to expose Black side hustles in the Circle City and beyond to folks like Jason, right? Because maybe they don't have an accountant in their circle, or an attorney, or a therapist, or a marketer. But because of, we're thankful for the relationship and the network that we've been able to develop as a company, we want to expose folks who may not have been exposed, because you can't dream by any means if you haven't seen anything. And so we want to expose first. Secondly, we educate, and we educate through our 5 different programs, because we're going to meet you where you are. We're not going to judge you because of what you do or don't know. We're not going to judge you because of what you do or don't have. We're going to meet you exactly where you are and help you build the skills, the competencies, and acquire those assets that you need to make it make sense, and that sensational impact all across the senses. And then lastly, we equip, right? There's a lot of people who've been exposed, so they've seen it. They've been educated, so they know how to accomplish it, but they haven't been equipped. They don't have the tools and the resources that they need to make it make sense. And a lot of people, that's where a lot of people, I was there for a while, right? Where I was just frustrated because I'm like, I know what I want to do. I know how to do it, but I don't have the tools I need to bring it to life. And so we focus a lot on equipping too. And so that means you may be able to see Jason in a situation like this. And, Jason's going to do a couple of workshops down the line we're going to talk about offline. But then lastly, it's like, yo, let's get you in contact with Jason so that in case your business doesn't have an accountant and you need one, here's a premier option. And we're going to do it week after week after week after week with beautiful, bold, and Black people, right? And so that kind of explains our methodology as a company. And I share that because my next question directly ties into that. So, Jason, can you take some time to talk about which one of those three E's, whether it be exposure, education, or equipment, that has had the most positive experience on your journey in entrepreneurship so far?
Wow, expose is huge. I'd say don't sleep on the value of being able to meet people who've been there, done that before, or who are going through the journey with you. You learn, I'd say I've learned the most about doing business from real life people who have been like, hey, this is how it worked for me. I'm not telling you to go left or right, but keep this in mind, right? And you're talking to someone who's constantly learning, trying to learn new stuff about business, going on YouTube, going on entrepreneur.com, right? But yet it was the information that I necessarily wasn't seeking that had made the biggest impact. I've for example, I just was fortunate enough to meet another CPA who literally has built a company that I'm trying to build. And he was able to give me insight on what happens when you bring employees on and the mindset that employees might have, and how you might feel as an entrepreneur when you have these employees on board with you. And it's literally what he was telling me. He's an older gentleman. He was on the back end and I'm on the front end, leading to make the mistake that he had made, right? So I don't think if I hadn't met him, I would have probably lost a lot of money. But fortunately enough, I was able to make a quick decision and pivot, or not even, I was already making decisions, but he validated my original decision-making process. So yeah, you never know what resource you'll need. And I could tell you, being in an environment, a robust community where you can tap it ahead of time and have relationships in place with like-minded people, with people who've been there, done that, is invaluable. If you can get that through the side hustle economy, I highly recommend it. If you can get it from somewhere else, you go for it. But definitely seek out exposure to people who have taken this route before, as find mentors for sure.
No, that's dope, man. Something I discovered, I forget who I was talking to, but it's this idea that, it used to be what you know, right? Then it was about who you know. But now, man, it's about who knows you. And the thing about it is, when we went from what you know to who you know, there was a little bit more uncertainty that was added, and a little bit less that you could do as a person to control what opportunities you got, right? And then people become serial networkers. They become serial relationship builders to close that gap between the what and the who. But now we're in this season of, now it's not even about who you know, but now it's about who knows you. And the difficult part about that is, it was hard enough to go from my competencies get me in the room to now someone else needs to know about my competencies for me to get in that room. Now it's like, if you want to get into the room, there's got to be somebody that knows you, that you probably don't even know that knows you, that can speak on your character, your integrity, your quality, and your efficiency, to go back to what you mentioned earlier. And I think that speaks to a principle that, I don't know about you, my parents taught me early on, and it's like, yo, you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's looking. And so often there are people who are watching that you don't know are looking, that can go on to change the trajectory of what your company might look like. Yeah. And so when you talk about the power of exposure for your own journey, bro, that speaks to mine as well. And I guarantee that there are so many people who can relate to that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. And there's another dimension to that. I think there's a level of stepping out of your comfort zone when it comes to business success. So exposure, I'll give you an example. I was actually reading up on the story of Airbnb. So they started their company out in California, and a lot of their clients were on the East Coast, and they were primarily computer coders who were building this platform, and they just happened to be networking. One of these individuals that they met during this networking process told them, hey, why are you here in Cali if your clients are all over on the other side of the country? You need to go where your clients are. At that time, Airbnb was a struggling platform. They were struggling trying to create scale. So they ended up going to Boston, Connecticut, going door to door, asking their clients, meeting with their clients on a one-on-one level, just to see what their clients valued, building those relationships. And that's what ended up building that initial, giving them the insight they needed to tweak the company in a way that created scale going forward. So there are two lessons in that, right? There's the lesson of networking, right? Getting out and talking to people who don't have anything, who haven't been tied up in your thought spider web, who are under the wrong impressions of ways to do things, seeking out those people, and then also stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things that you might not be accustomed to if you're an introvert, for example, which is like going door to door and asking your clients, what is it they value, not what they want, not what they're trying to spend. Who are they? What's their story? Why'd they choose your platform? That could even be picking up a phone, maybe. But yeah, think about that. Exposure is almost, it's stepping out of what's comfortable and, kind of creating that plasticity. So yeah, definitely a great word to think about and meditate on.
This is good stuff. So last question, bro, and then we'll open up to any questions that folks might have. But again, man, definitely appreciate your time. And so what you said about exposure, the first step is always the hardest step. And that's why we start with exposure, because in large part, your career can be your hustle, whether it's the side or the main, your career, whether it's corporate or it's communal, can really be made or broken based on what you have and have not seen. And also, what version of you the people do and don't know. And so, I mean, I appreciate you taking time to show the people a different side of you. The folks know you can crunch the numbers, right? They know you can take care of that ledger, but this is the side that really separates you from other people. And so,
Yeah.
you know, on Make It Make Sense Mondays, we like to leave people with something. And so this is going to be my last question for you, brother. You know, we're bringing it to a close, and you know, you dropped a lot of gems, but leave the listeners with one last thing, and it's, you know, what does Make It Make Sense mean to you?
Man, you know, I kind of hinted on this earlier, you know, and I think I can dig deeper when it comes to focusing on money, man. I think it's easy to say, it's harder to execute, right? You know, you can focus on money and still get caught in the weeds. Uh, Part of that focus process includes, you know, analytics, right? You need to know, you need to be keeping track of where you're spending your time. You need to have detailed tools. You know, I use T-sheets within QuickBooks, and it tracks, you know, I'm able to log my time hourly. You know, take a look at that to the best of your ability. You'll find that sometimes if you're focusing on things that you're not good at, it costs a lot more than you think to start that process of focusing on it, to focus on it, and then to transition from that over to what actually you're good at. You know, and so think efficiency. You know, what makes efficiency, you know, efficiency happens in machines because they can do a lot of things with very little resources. You want to be able to identify what you're most efficient at. If you're really efficient at something, it's almost fun. It's easy for you, and that's what makes you valuable. Where you can spend 15 minutes doing something that might take someone who's not as good as you 3 hours to do. Find out what that skill is and focus on it, and realize that, you know, I'm certified in supply chain, and I teach on the subject. That's actually my day job is accounting and consulting. My side hustle is just teaching with Ivy Tech. You know, that's how I've managed my cash flow. So I teach part-time, and we teach about machine changeovers in supply chain, right? So when you're running a machine that's making wheat bread, you got to convert that machine. You got to clean it off to go ahead and make, you know, non-wheat bread, right? There's a transition time. You want to eliminate that transition time in your mind as much as possible. When you're not spending time transitioning, you can focus on creativity. You can focus on lying down and taking a nap, creating that room in your brain to, I don't know, if you're a faithful person, giving that room in your brain for the miracles to happen, right? The things that you can't explain, the insight. I'd say that that's usually what sets the best companies apart from companies that are just trying to survive. It's the ability to innovate. And innovation is something that happens when you're really good at something and when you're focusing on that thing that you're really good at. So yeah, that's it. That's my Make It Make Sense.
That's dope. That's dope. Well, look, man, I mean, I appreciate you. Like I said, this was the kickoff for Make It Make Sense Mondays, and I'm sure we're going to be in person for that here soon. So I appreciate you jumping on Zoom for the first one. Yeah. I can't wait for next week, because next we're going to come back with this with a whole new perspective, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. But you kicked it off, man, and so I appreciate you deeply for sharing your insights both on the business and on the story tip. Before we jump into questions, which if anybody has a question, please drop them in the chat. We'll be sure to ask Jason today. Drop them in the chat on YouTube or on Zoom. Give the people ways they can follow you, your website, they can follow up in case they want to learn more.
Yeah. So, if you're looking to work with me or you're looking to contact me, you can reach out to me at ledgercrush.com. So that's LEDGER crush.com. You'll have plenty of opportunities on that website to contact me, and we'll get the pricing figured out, and we'll figure out what your needs are, and we'll create a custom package if necessary. But yeah, ledgercrush.com.
This is good stuff. So again, to everybody watching that's watching live or watching after this is over, ledgercrush.com, LEDGERCRUSH.com. Make sure you look it up, get in contact with my guy, because I know that he can provide some value to you. He's been providing value to me. for the last several months, and I've definitely worked with a number of different people and continue to go back to him month after month after month. And what I'll say is, you all keep thinking about your questions. It's also been amazing to know that this season has not just been difficult for me, right? If you're in business and you're trying to make it make sense during COVID-19 and during all the pandemonium, that no one is exempt from that, right? And so to see Jason be able to deal with what it means to be in his position during the pandemic and not lie about it, but be real about it and go through what he go to get to where he's meant to, has been encouragement to me. And it helps that personal relationship make the business relationship make more sense. So he's definitely a brother I'd recommend. This is why I wanted him to be on here. I trust him with my finances, and I definitely believe you should trust him with yours as well.
Hey, I appreciate that, Murdoch. You know, it's good to know that I'm adding value to your day to day. So that's what I strive for, and I think I need to celebrate that after this.
You do, you definitely do. So let me check our YouTube, see if anybody dropped anything in the comments.
Yeah,
I don't think they have, and then I know someone had mentioned in the chat on here, this difference between chasing paper or chasing passion, which I think went back to, you know, your making make sense moment, if we will, was about focusing on income, right? Focus on the money.
right.
But you also talked about before, just understanding the different roles, right? And the different things that as a business you need to be able to focus on while maintaining quality, integrity, but being efficient. You know, which one is more important, you know, for a side hustle looking to turn into the main hustle? Is it about chasing the paper, chasing the passion, or is it not that simple?
Man, that is tough. Which one is most important? I'll say, yeah, chasing the paper. Never. I had an accounting professor teach me that if you're focusing on just making money, it's not going to work. It's not going to last. Your mental health might fall apart sooner than later. You'll find out quickly that it's not as rewarding as you thought it was to have extra problems. I mean, we've heard it so many times: more money, more problems, right? You know, you need to be focused on, you know, how you're going to add value to society, and let the money fall in. You know, establish what it is you're doing this for, and the money will follow it. And you're talking, I'm someone who I've been, you know, my monthly income has gone up crazy, gone down. I know both sides, right? I know all sides of the spectrum, and you'll find out that the more money you make, if you focus on that, the more isolated you'll be. You know, it'll be harder to make friends. It'll be harder to you'll feel like the problems that you're having are exclusive to you, because you won't be able to realize that, you won't be able to talk to other people and realize that, yeah, a lot of people are going through the same thing, right? Focus on the passion. The passion will lead to relationships, and everything will fall in place when certain relationships are there.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. And I think we're going to end it on that note. So again, man, thank you for your time, my brother. Thank y'all so much for watching. Again, the plan is for us to be able to post this to our YouTube live. I think that'll happen right after we're done and I click in. First time going live on Zoom and on YouTube. So perfect, I don't jack this thing up. But just know that we appreciate you, King. Definitely going to save this content and share it somehow, some kind of way for those who weren't able to tune in. Thanks to everybody that's watching. Quick insights about future events. This Wednesday, we're having the second installment of our Winning with Purpose workshop. We talked about who you are last week, talking about what you do this week. And then on this upcoming Sunday, September the 19th, we're having our first installment of the Bless the Hustle seminar. That's a partnership with the Pregame Podcast. If you're an aspiring podcaster or a current podcaster looking to improve your side hustle, make sure you come downtown on Sunday, September the 19th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. at Pivot Marketing. You can check out our Instagram or our website for more information about that too. And then we'll be right back here next Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time with another Make It Make Sense Mondays. Again, it's your boy Murdoch. This is the Side Hustle Economy Company. Definitely appreciate y'all's time. So let me stop recording.